All right, folks, it's Philip, it's Toon Tactics TV, and we are looking at Howe's plan for Sheffield United this Saturday. How we're going to bounce back from the Crystal Palace loss away at Selhurst Park. Well, we're first going to do a recap in terms of that game, and in order to find out what we need to improve, what I think Eddie Howe will look to improve before he gets onto the teams meet Newcastle meet Sheffield United this Saturday. I was there live at the game, so I got to see a few things in person. Really good atmosphere at Selhurst Park as well. So you guys will know from the previous from our previous pre-match prediction for a pre-match preview for the Crystal Palace game, I thought would go 4-3-3. It didn't look like that. It looked like we just matched Crystal Palace and went 3-4-3. And what happened was, especially, we lost our key battles, key one-to-one battles all over the pitch, and most crucially and importantly, in the middle of the pitch. And what this allowed, as you guys can see from the player positions, it allowed Palace to push forward and to suppress us. Not necessarily on our own half, but contained and controlled us for large periods at that game. So although we had a majority of the possession, none of it was in really effective areas. And I thought that Elliot Anderson being out on the right, I think it was on the right, and dealing with Mitchell was a real hindrance. And you guys can see that with all the pressure that they were putting on, Anderson's we needed more technical ability in the midfield, and it was just Bruno and Longstaff. And obviously Bruno, he's got all the technical ability in the world, but he can't always do it by himself. Longstaff, he's got an engine, he's athletic, but he's not good in tight spaces and decision making. And ultimately, I think this cost us. Palace were not only good in possession when they got it, even though overall they had less possession than us, but they took shots on goal whenever they could. As soon as they got the ball, their whole thing was to press and to try and get shots on target, which they did. So that's the key things. They won the one-to-one duels, and they isolated our technical players, aka Bruno Gomes and actually Fabian Schär. So yes, they let them have the ball, but they blocked off everybody else, and it was just down to those players. And a lot of the times we were just, again, not able to play the game that we wanted to, and they just showed a lot more energy, a lot more strength, and were winning their one-to-one battle. So taking that, but then Palace away at Selhurst Park is not Sheffield United at home at St. James's Park. So this is what happened this time last year at Sheffield when we beat them 8-0. As you guys can see, you guys will know we scored 8 goals, 8 different goal scorers, and these are the things that went really, really right for our games. Obviously, total passes completed, 625, corners and crosses. It was a very, very dominant display, and I'll explain this. Oh, sorry, there, I took it off. If we look at the attack sides, we were able to attack them fairly evenly from the left side, right side, and the middle. Why was that? Well, because we took absolute dominion and absolute control over the central of the midfield. And this leads me to the point around the 3-5-2 formation that Sheffield United use. They use 3-5-2, but they also use 3-2-4-1 at times. And as you guys would have seen from WhoScored.com, they've only used 3-2-4-1 on 8 different occasions. They score less goals and they concede less goals over a 3-2-4-1, but they also score less. So they prefer using a 3-2-4-1, 3-5-2, excuse me, instead of a 3-2-4-1 because they score more goals, but they also concede more. And when I say score more goals, they're still very much. We'll see their form in one moment. They still don't score a lot of goals at all. They just score a little bit more with a 3-5-2. So Sheffield United are leaking tons of goals and not scoring lots of goals. And part of the problem is two things, and I'm going to point you guys into it. This is them against us last year, 3-5-2 against our 4-3-3, and it suited us down to the ground. And the main reason for this is that we had a really high final third interceptions. We tackled them. We created a lot of chances and goals scored. The 3-5-2 is tailor-made for the 4-3-3, and it relies a lot on them pushing up their wing backs, and so they left a lot of spaces in behind for Gordon and I forgot if it was Almiron to really exploit those spaces and really, really hurt them on the counter attacks. But we was also able to dominate the middle of the midfield, because when it comes down to it, player for player, we have better quality of player. Our players are bigger, stronger, more athletic than theirs, and so they're matching up to us on a one-to-one basis, on a one-to-one level. Just didn't work for them, and in the end, it just hurt them even more. And so that was the game last year at Sheffield United. And again, pointing to the 3-2-4-1, I'm going to share this. This is obviously, these are the metrics from FOTMOB for all teams, but this is Sheffield United, and they literally come bottom for everything. But this is the crucial thing why I wanted to point out the 3-5-2 formation, which relies, if you're going to make it work, if you're going to have to make it effective, you have to be able to press up high in order to be able to pin the other teams down, which Palace did really successfully, but they employed the 3-4-3. But Palace got better players than Sheffield United. And as you guys can see from this statistic, possessions won in the final third. Sheffield United come 20th, and I think that's bottom of the league. So you're employing a 3-5-2 formation, but you're not able to apply it successfully because you're not good at pressing high. And if Sheffield United come, and that's the only way the 3-5-2 really is effective. You can't use the 3-5-2 and come and be defensive. And they weren't defensive against Man United either. So they're not effective in pressing up high. Even though their interception rates and their successful tackles are somewhere, high 7th and 8th, which you would think is quite high. But I assert that I think that this is because they spend a lot of their times having to defend, having to tackle, and that's why their tackles per match and interceptions per match is quite high. It's not because they're in the final third of the pitch, as we can see where they're bottom, that they're making those tackles, that they're stealing the ball and they're scoring goals. That is not what is happening for Sheffield United. And so, yes, Newcastle didn't have lost out against Palace in the one-to-one duels. The tactics not having enough technical players in the middle wasn't good enough. But at home at St. James's Park against Sheffield United, I think those things will be changed, and 3-5-2 suits us like a glove. I think what you will see happen is this. Let me make sure that that you guys can see this. So this is Excelente, so you guys can see that. So this is in the light, almost green, is the 3-5-2. That'll be Sheffield United. In the dark blue is the 4-3-3, which is employed by Newcastle United. And what you guys can see, we can match up to them really, really easily. We don't have to shift around too much. Our two centre-backs, aka Fabian Schär, Dan Burn, will be able to go right up against their forwards, probably Cameron Archer, and I don't know if it would be Ollie McBurney if he's injured or not. I forgot who the person might be. I think Brereton Diaz possibly can match up to those guys. Our fullbacks, which I hope will be Livramento and Hall, though it could be, I suspect will be Hall and Kraft, but we'll see where Livramento is at, can match up to their fullback, so that cancelled them out already. And our central midfielders, which will be Bruno, Longstaff, and Elliot Anderson, our more technical guys, can invert into the central midfield, which is where you want them to be and not where Sheffield United want them to be, because they can take the ball, play with it in high spaces, do the short passes, as well as do the through balls and long balls to our devastating three forwards, which would be it would be Gordon, Barnes and Isak, and that's where the 3-5-2 is really going to hurt them. So we are three midfielders against their three midfielders, and I back them to win in that regard. And if we dominate that, which is likely to happen, it exposes their centre backs, who again will be 1-to-1 with our forwards, who have an incredible short conversion rate, and it could just be another devastating a day for Sheffield United. And so what do? In terms of that? They're going to employ the 3-5-2, but you can't do the 3-5-2 and defend. They might be 4-5-1 out of possession, but then all that would happen is that we'll keep them in their side of the field, and we'll just keep them recycling the ball and hurting them. They didn't do, from the highlights I've seen, that they didn't do that so much against Sheffield, against Man United, and were able to hurt them on the counter attack. So I envisage them to be a little bit more attacking. The other issue with the 3-5-2, I will point out before we close off, is let's see. Where do I want to go? Their defensive shape. We'll go to their defensive shape, which is what I anticipate, and I'm sure Eddie Howe will anticipate, will be what they'll be using a lot of the times. This is them probably falling back into a 5-6 guys behind against our three. Our midfield really pushing up. Our centre backs pushing up. They'll probably leave out their two strikers up front against three of our straight, and they haven't got tremendous pace. Cameron Archer isn't too bad, but it's not tremendous pace. And this is what I mean about them coming up against us. Our more technical players being able to take hold of the ball. Our Gordon, Barnes, maybe not always by the byline, but inverting as well a lot of the times and going through the middle and dominating them even that way. So the ball can. So even if attacks break down or the wrong pass is made, we can easily recycle the ball. They're not gonna. It's going to be a lot more difficult for them to win the ball in the midfield. And so the other scenario, and I'll leave it, and I'll leave it after this. It's going to be a really, really difficult game for them. And this is them if they were pressing up against us, because this is the key for the key to making the 3-5-2 work, is that their wing backs, excuse me guys, I'm going to get it to their wing backs, as you guys can see in the 3 and a 2 here, their wing backs have to push up. That's Bogle and the other gentleman, I forgot, and I'll get to him. If they lose those battles, if they make the wrong pass, their attacks break down, which suggests is going to happen with their low chances created, with the low amount of shots conversions, it's a high chance it's going to happen. There is tremendous space in behind those fullbacks. And if our ball, and it'll be so much, and you guys can already see, our forwards are 1v1 against their centre backs, and our back our forwards against their centre backs any given day. And so, again, they're just going to be left exposed. So, without saying this is a Newcastle have to win their 1-to-1 battles. We have to get on the ball. We have to be better in our pass and everything else. All of that has to improve from the Crystal Palace games. Should Newcastle do that, and we've been relatively good in terms of bouncing back from defeats, and this is the predicted starting lineup by WhoScored.com for this game. Should Newcastle do that, I think Sheffield United are going to be in big trouble. Now, the only difference, again, I don't know why WhoScored.com like to put Kraft at centre. I think it will be Byrne and Shaw in the centre. Kraft probably should Livramento play. Kraft will be on the left. No, it'll be Hall on the left and Livramento. But I think it's difficult to tell. I hope both Livramento and Hall play, and I think if they do that, we've got even more technical players on the pitch, people that can run with the ball like Livramento and Hall as well, with his technical ability, with Anderson, Barnes, Gomes. It could be a devastating day for Sheffield United. As a result of that, whether Sheffield United choose to try to press us, they could really hurt themselves with the gaps exposed at the back, as I mentioned earlier. Or even if they try to defend in a 5-4-1, The ball is just going to continuously be recycled. They're gonna, and over time, it's just going to, that pressure is going to tell. It could be a devastating day for them. So my prediction is 4-0 to Newcastle United. It could be more. Depends on Newcastle, I think. If Newcastle turn up, which I expect they will, part of the psychology, I think, is they would have been burning from that Palace game. They would have been hurting. And I think they're going to want to set a lot of things right. I hope they're going to want to set a lot of things right. The crowd behind them, Newcastle have shown resilience throughout this season. They're about to close off the season. They're chasing Europe. They've got a lot to play for. Whereas Sheffield United, though mathematically aren't relegated yet, psychologically, emotionally, it's inevitable they are. They haven't got that much to play for, which could make them dangerous at the same time. I think Newcastle will physically overpower them. Their ability on the ball will be better. Our conversion rate, we're like the 4th, 5th highest scoring team in the league. I expect Newcastle to deliver. I predict 4-0 in this game. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what tactics you think I may have missed out on, what I didn't, what would you guys think? What do you think, if you were Sheffield United, what would you do to stop Newcastle? What can Eddie Howe make sure he does in order to make sure that this game is dead and buried, hopefully, in the first half? I'm not trying to be overconfident or cocky at all. I'm just looking at the metrics for Sheffield United. I'm looking at their formation. I'm looking at our previous results and the form. And I just think it's overwhelming. Newcastle have to turn up. They have to win their one-to-one battles. They have to pass well and play on the ball well. They have to shoot on sight. Our forwards have to be on point. Our midfield has to be on point. And defense have to be on point. And at home, if that Newcastle turns up, it is going to be a long day for Sheffield United. My final prediction, like I said, is 4-0. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, guys, take care and God bless, folks.